the recording.
I'd like to call the meeting to order. I think all of you know that I'm sorry, Barbara, would you please call the roll?
Okay, we have Commissioners Sales, Parfrey, and Moss present.
Thank you. This proceeding will be on Channel 35, of course. Report from the General Manager.
No items today.
Thank you. Good report. Comments or requests from Commissioners?
Not for me, sir.
None for me.
Good job, guys. We have no public comment, is that correct?
No cards at this
At
time.
this point? Is the ratepayer advocate here today? Would you like to be heard? Okay, thank you. Good job. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
There is.
moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We'd like to pull items 9 and 10 from the consent agenda. I'd like a motion to approve items 7, 8, 11, and 12.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Commissioner Moss has questions about items 9 and 10. Who's going to present the item? Goodbye, Wendy. Good job. Thank you. Why don't you identify yourself for the
Good
record?
afternoon, Commissioner. Joseph Brybich, Assistant General Counsel for the Department. Item number 9 is a request to increase the appropriated amount for Jackson DeMarco, which is our quality counsel that we utilize primarily for Owens Lake on the regulatory matters. And the way we generally do our outside counsel contracts is we do them by stages, and so this will take Jackson DeMarco through the remainder of their contract through 2014. And the appropriated amount is then distributed based upon task orders, so it's not there's not $350 that's being put out there just to spend at will. It is per task order, but that's the amount that we think will take us.
So it's
through,
not to exceed 300.
right. So we think it'll take us through 2014.
Okay. Commissioner
And
Moss.
there has been an increase in their workload due to the 7A issues that we resolved a little while ago, and some of the upcoming issues that you're aware of from closed session.
Commissioner Moss.
Yeah, so the reason why I wanted to highlight this is because we, in December, approved $850,000 more on this contract, and now we're being asked to approve another $350,000. I just want to make sure that in 3 months or 5 months, you're not going to come back to the commission and ask for more money on the contract. So are we good for the end of this term through July?
That is our anticipation. I can't guarantee that, obviously, because sometimes we get hit with items that we're not anticipating, but based upon what we forecast and see in the next year, that is the amount that we think will get us through there.
Okay.
Is there a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Item 9 passes.
Thank you.
Commissioner Moss also has a question on item 10.
Yes, if you could please walk me through this.
Oh, just a second. Why don't you identify yourself for the record, and then we can...
Matt Lamp, CIO. Gene Gamache, Assistant Director.
Commissioner Moss.
Hi, if you could just walk me through this contract. I did not understand why we're being asked to approve a 3-year contract that commences on September 29th, 2011.
Okay. This has been, let me just comment that this has been probably the most frustrating contract arrangement I've ever run through. This is a contract with Computer Sciences Corporation, who is the system integrator for converting the city of Los Angeles to Google's email system. We wanted to use one feature of that contract, which is the Google archiving email archiving service. And as we explored the contract, it appeared that we were included in the contract with a very simple mechanism to utilize the contract, because it was designed for all city departments, and it had a very simple mechanism to pay for it and use it. So we began to use the service, and the first year we used it, we paid for it through a simple mechanism with ITA, the Los Angeles Information Technology Agency. After that, the general manager, who has since departed from ITA, essentially refused to allow us to use that mechanism. So we
The
were
new general manager.
the then general.
Then general
previous,
manager.
yes. because in the mechanism, she had to go to council and ask for something, and there were other issues with the Google contract that didn't affect us that she didn't want to have to go back to council on. So we ended up with having the service, having it fully operational, using it well, and then basically exploring with CSC and Google how we could get them paid to continue using the service under the terms and conditions that the City Council had fully accepted. And it literally took this long to come up with a full resolution around how to get that actually done. And Google has been willing to, because they know we've been trying to work through the contracting mechanisms. We couldn't do it directly. We had some issues with a straight piggyback. We finally had to do an override memo on some concerns from risk management, which I talked about in the board letter, that we think we are very satisfactorily covered in those areas, and to bring it to the board finally. So it was a far lengthier process than we thought. We thought we had a very straightforward mechanism to get there, to start the service, and we did not want to terminate it if we absolutely didn't need to, and we had a contractor who was willing to sustain us along with it, because moving that is complex and difficult, and so that's why we are where we are. It's not a picture I would ever want to get in the middle of. We've had conversations with the new general manager, because this contract basically ends in November, on what they're doing and how they're restructuring their agreement to continue their Google services. And he's very willing to work with us on trying to reinstate a very simple payment mechanism. So we're trying to avoid anything like this again.
So has Google or CSC received any payments in September 2011 from DWP?
No, not since then.
Wow.
And they've been very aware of, we've had a lot of conversation with CSC, with Google, as we've been trying to work through these issues. They have maintained the service. It's an excellent service. It works extremely well for us. It avoided us having to put a couple very expensive boxes, one at our DR site and one here, as a way of continuing our archiving services. And we would prefer not to have to fall back to that mechanism.
And we have been meeting with them the past 2 years. We meet with them. We have a very good relationship with them, so they know how critical this service is for us.
So given the criticality of of the service, and given that the contract's expiring in November, and also given our very speedy RFP process, what are we doing about the contract in November when it expires? How are we going to handle that?
Well, that's why we've been working with ITA, because ITA has a large number of departments who not just use this for archiving, but use it for their primary mail system. And they are putting into place a mechanism to be able to continue acquiring that service, and that's why we've been meeting with the general manager at ITA to make sure we are both able to easily use that mechanism and resolve any of the difficulties in payment.
Do we have a plan B in case ITA doesn't pan out?
Not immediately. We've talked to Google some about whether there's a way to go directly to them, but
May I urge you to come up with a plan B
we will.
immediately
Yes.
and begin the process, because I think you should probably dual track this one, given
Yes.
the fact that you don't have complete control over the situation.
Right.
Yep.
Okay. With that, I'm satisfied. I'm prepared to make a motion.
I would second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Item 10 passes.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Item 13 is deferred from the last board meeting.
Susan Regani will be presenting this item.
Susan, come forward.
I must say we're in for a bumpy ride again.
Is that a Betty Davis allusion?
It is.
All right.
Please introduce yourself. For the
I don't have many more opportunities, so.
That's a good thing. Let's go.
My name is Susan Rogani, Water Engineering and Technical Services, and I have here a representative from the City of Glendale, Raja Takidin.
Welcome.
Basically, we're here before our board to approve the agreement between ourselves and the City of Glendale. The City of Glendale was going to design and install a pipeline to take water through the City of Glendale to be able to serve a park in the City of Los Angeles, Betty Davis Park. Part of this project also will enable us to serve the LA Equestrian Center because it's the first part of a pipeline that will enable us to then add on to it and serve the Equestrian Center, which we have not the ability at this current point. We came before this board a year ago to have the contract approved. What happened was there were increases in costs. The increases in costs were because it was decided to do a design build for this type of project. The design was not included in the initial cost of this particular project, so that added to the cost. When they went out to bid, the bids were higher than expected, and so there were also some other costs that were not included. So that's why the cost had increased from the initial amount, which is $1.2 to $1.8 million. The bids are also included in the documents before you, so you could see the bids that were actually received by the City of Glendale.
I'm personally satisfied. Thank you for the report.
Motion?
I would so move.
Questions, Commissioner Moss?
No, I don't have any questions.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. We're going to take items 14 through 17 as a group because they all relate to these fiber optic deals. So whoever's presenting, that's okay.
That's fine with me.
Okay.
Thank you.
So, just to kind of cut right to the chase. So you went back to the various parties and you asked, could we do a shorter term, and they basically all said, no, we'd prefer to go with the original term. Is that correct?
That's a very nice way to characterize their response.
Okay.
It was much more negative than that.
Okay, that's fine. What I'd like to do is I'd like to make a motion to amend the resolutions for all four of these items to provide that staff will return to the commission in 6 months' time to justify to the commission's satisfaction that these contracts remain appropriate given the new strategic plan for fiber optics in the department. So in other words, they have to establish why the commission should not request staff to terminate the contracts using the termination language in the contracts.
What's staff's reaction?
I think that's
Don't
very
have a problem with that.
Ron,
No, I think that's fine. It's reasonable.
questions or thoughts?
Now, if that's an amendment, I would like to support that amendment.
Okay, so is that a motion?
That's a motion.
There's a second?
There is a second.
This is items 14 through 17. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's passed.
Thank you.
We are now going to go into closed session, and we'll take up item 21 when we come back.
Okay.
We'll do closed session. Did I miss something?
Do we do file items or?
There's reports.
There's I apologize,
Okay.
Mr. President. There's a presentation on supply chain services report. There is a presentation on that today, and I think it would be helpful if we could do that prior to closed session.
That's fine. That's fine. Is that to help Ms. Williams out so she can get back to work? Is that what
That would be
Well, that's
part
a
of
good
it.
thing.
That would be part of it, Mr. President.
Welcome, Ms. Williams.
Good afternoon. I'm Gwendolyn Williams, Director of Supply Chain Services.
I would like to just take a quick note before we start this. And you might recall at the last board meeting, I noted that we have an increasing level of contracts by virtue of services, supplies, and the like, largely associated with both our uptick in infrastructure work and meeting regulatory mandates on both the water and the power side to levels that I think are close to unprecedented from where we were before. much of what we're doing in that adds to the level of work by both the power and the water and our joint systems and for supply chain services. And I'd asked Ms. Williams to include in this presentation today an explanation of why some of the things that you are seeing as contracts are happening more last minute than we would like, and at times we're doing renewals of contracts before we've had RFPs out and done. So when that is discussed in there, I'm trying to provide some context for this so that the board has a better depth of understanding, in addition to addressing some of the several questions that several of the commissioners have asked over the last 6 months or so with respect to our supply chain services and procurement efforts. So with that, Gwen.
Fine. Ms. Williams?
Okay. Commissioner Holloman had asked for a summary report on the connection event that we had for small businesses and large businesses that we had in June. And so I'm just going to show a few pictures, which will probably say a lot more than I could with words. But you do have a copy of a summary of the report and a summary of the responses from the survey that we did on SurveyMonkey about what the vendors thought of the event. We had more than 450 people attend the event. It was standing room only in the auditorium. It was the largest event that anyone can remember having taken place here at the department. So we had staff from both water and power and joint systems that were able to interact with a number of our vendors that came. This is a picture of the auditorium you can see in the back. Mr. Nichols was quite surprised. I think the most we'd ever had previously was about 200 people in attendance, so we doubled the number. And at the event, one of the things that I think attracted the vendors to coming to the event was because for the first time, I think in the department's history, or recent history, probably in the last 25 years, we told the vendors that we would provide them with a look ahead. You have a copy of it. It's called Supply Line. It's a quarterly newsletter that we're going to be producing. We have an internal newsletter called The Source that we provide for our staff, and the external newsletter that we provide to all 12,000 of our registered vendors electronically is the Supply Line newsletter, and that's what they're all looking at. I didn't hand it out until they were leaving the auditorium, so they were eagerly flipping through that to see what was coming up. I was at a meeting last week for women in energy, environment, and water, and one of the representatives from the Metropolitan Water District was there, and when I introduced myself, he apologized because he had that document that he was handing out to the people that participated at the event. He said he'd been handing it out in Santa Barbara, Ventura, etc., because he thought it was such a great document where we were letting people know 18 months in advance about the contracts that were coming up, so they had an opportunity to plan for their teams. We had, in response to some of your concerns that you've had about the number of non-responsive bids that you see every single board meeting, we conducted a responsiveness workshop, and it was, we had people standing in line to attend it. We did 3 of them. And the other document that you have been provided with is a copy of the presentation that we handed out at the second bid responsiveness workshop, which was the first one was held last Friday. We're doing these workshops every other Friday until the end of the year, until we don't have anybody else that wants to attend. They're about 2 hours. I went through a number of the items that they face as vendors trying to do business with the department, so that they could have a better understanding of what is required of them to become a responsive bidder. that's the classroom. So now into acquiring goods and services, and a number of the issues that place us in the position that we are today in terms of our procurement at LADWP. I'll go over procurement elements, backgrounds and issues, the transformation plan, evaluation, and summary and discussion. This is just a basic chart. If you have any questions, I'm happy to entertain them as we go through the charts. This is just how we're organized. Supply chain services consist of supplier relations office, spec management office that develops reviews our specifications before they go out, and then we have an administrative arm that's not pictured on here, and then our group, as we presented to you, I think in January of this year, that we're now reorganized by power, water, and joint. This is a staffing profile with we've got 60 people in the actual purchasing group. We have, I listed the certifications. Scott Madden did a report in 2010 and noted that we were lower than our peers in terms of the number of certifications that we have in our staff. So we're working on getting our buyers professionally certified. This chart is just kind of a high-level process overview of board-awarded contracts with a competitive bid where price is the major factor and people are not able to take exceptions to our terms and conditions. And this one is our request for a proposal process overview where they are able to take exceptions. We do have discussions, and price is not the only factor. This is a list of, on board-awarded contracts, this is a list of all of the documents that we've been requiring that our bidders submit with their bid. So you can see there are 19 different documents, some of them mandatory because of ordinances that were passed, some of them just by state law. What we've done is I called together a team with water and power and legal, and we met a couple of weeks ago about this list. And because I think this was a big reason that we have so many non-responsive bids, because they have to submit their bids electronically. So what they have to do is download all of these documents, fill them out, sign them, and then upload again. And they make mistakes. Sometimes they'll submit the same document twice and not submit the document they're supposed to, or they'll ignore them totally. But that's why we have a lot of, when you hear C1 and C3 weren't submitted. Now, what we did with the team was we sat down and we talked for about 2 hours about trying to determine which documents must be submitted with the bid. So effective September 1st, this list will go from 19 documents that have to be submitted with the bid to 8. And what we're going to be doing is the 8 documents that must be submitted with the bid. We're going to have an electronic checklist, an ERSP, so they upload the document. They download the document. If they don't upload it, ERSP won't let them move forward. Now, there is a chance that they'd upload the wrong document, but if they upload the correct document, everything should.
Can someone do the document on a computer screen, or do they actually have to download and print out a hard copy and then re-scan it or something?
No, they can't. That's phase 2. We're going to look into having fillable documents on in ERSP where they can fill out the forms online. The other thing that we're going to look into is, and it's probably at least a year away, is, for instance, on the affirmative action plan, if they've submitted one already this year, then they won't have to submit one every time they bid. But that's a little bit further away until we get more staff to be able to handle that. So effective September 1st, any document that goes out from the department will only require those 8 documents. And what we'll do is we'll only require the other 11 documents from the person that wins.
Oh, great.
And we'll give them 5 business days to respond to our request to provide those documents. We'll let them know that that becomes a responsiveness item. We won't chase them around forever. And if they don't submit the documents within the required time frame, we'll go to the next bidder.
That's great.
This is just some background information that we've been working on transformation for supply chain for quite some time. PricewaterhouseCoopers did a review in 1998 where they were saying that we had a lot of problems with understanding policies, process, and procedure. Scott Madden came in 2010, found the same things, but they also noted that we were understaffed by 13 full-time equivalents.
Has that changed, or is that still the case?
Well, now it's 16.
So it's increased.
It has changed.
It has changed. It's gotten worse.
Now it's 16 because we had people that retired or moved to other divisions within the department. So it's changed from 13 to 16.
In our efforts to fill that void or gap tied up over in the City Hall bureaucracy.
Yes, and I'll be going through that in the chart down the line. So I just listed, which you're familiar with, some of the concerns that we have internally that people feel like that in terms of supply chain. Sometimes we don't get timely requests from systems that we support. You know, I get a lot of last-minute rushes, which we try and squeeze into all of the work that we have. A lot of times we're not involved early enough in the planning process, but I think that's been mitigated a little bit. I think the systems are including us earlier in the process. The SCS webpage is really poorly done. It's very difficult for our own people to navigate, but IT has an initiative going where they're revising the intranet, so we'll take care of some of those issues with that. Lack of aggressive follow-up after board award. You know, once the board awards the contract and it goes through the review days at City Hall, we're trying to become more aggressive about getting things out as soon as, you know, not waiting until those days pass before we start anything, so that we're ready as soon as those days pass. We don't have established cycle time metrics. I'm working on that. It's pretty hard because of the lack of support staff to really establish cycle time that makes any sense at this point. And one of the other complaints that we get is that a lack of timely responses from us, which I'm working on. The vendor's concerns is a lack of clarity in our solicitation documents. That really came out in the bid responsiveness workshops when they talked to us about sometimes not in our board awarded contracts, but the contracts less than $150,000. We have drawings that have from like 1970 that have been duplicated over and over and over again that they can't read. So, you know, we'll be working on addressing that. We're working on Simon Zodu, who's head of the specifications office, is working on updating and revising our specification template. So it'll include the reduction in the number of documents required, different formatting, clearing up a lot of the language so we don't have as much confusion, hopefully. We're working on ERSP. I think as time goes on and the vendors become more familiar with it, we've got fewer and fewer problems, but there's changes that we're making to ERSP too. Lack of access to upcoming procurement information. Well, now they're going to get supply line every quarter that gives them an 18-month look ahead. Limited outreach efforts were, that's been a little bit difficult for us because we just don't have the staff to go out and do the kind of outreach that we need to, but when we get staffed up, we're going to increase that. And I just listed all of your concerns, which you've let us know were of concern to you. The first one is just kind of going over the challenges again. Staffing shortage. We need training of our contract administrators so they're familiar with what they need to do. When I say outdated contract terms and conditions, we haven't updated our terms and conditions probably, well, no one can remember, I don't think, when we updated them. So There's an RFP on the street. We have a pre-proposal meeting tomorrow. 40 law firms have downloaded the solicitation document, so we expect that this fall we'll see recommendations for updated terms and conditions, and that should help with the responsiveness and exceptions also. I hired a new manager 2 weeks ago who's going to be responsible for developing a supplier performance rating system so that the systems aren't confronted with suppliers who constantly miss our delivery dates, and then they come in and bid with us again because there's no mechanism for keeping them from doing so, and they miss them again and again and again. So we're going to establish a point system. We've got to talk to legal about it, about how we're able to do that, where they'll be suspended from being able to do business with us for a certain period of time if possible. Constrained by the one-year purchase, we're waiting for City Council to approve what you had passed previously, where it said that we could go to $450,000 and 3-year contracts, which will reduce our workload because we're not having to do everything every year. We can do, for instance, a webinar contract that was $75,000, we could only do for 1 year at $25,000 because we were prohibited from having a 3-year contract unless it was approved by the board. Okay, this is one of the major issues that we face. If you look at this chart, you'll note that Mr. Nichols signed off in December of 2012 my request to hire new staff to try and address the staffing shortage. But because of the difficulties in terms of resources over at City Hall, it will probably be March or April, best case, 2014, before I'll see one additional person. And that's the reality that I'm confronted with in terms of trying to get things done in a timely manner.
Is this something we should talk to the mayor about? I mean, it's one of the things you hear the mayor talking about is improving the efficiency of City Hall, right, and being more responsive, certainly to external customers, but you would think they'd also want to be as responsive to internal customers.
Indeed, we should, and this is on a long list of items to discuss with them on this. I have had discussions with Maggie Whalen, who's the head of personnel, and that's where the vast majority, nearly all of the constraints exist. We have actually provided 2 funded positions down there to help this process. It's simply not, it's not enough on their end. I've just.
So are they understaffed also?
They are understaffed as part of this, as part of the city's cutbacks in budget. They are understaffed as well. Try to go to the next step, which I'm still going to try to pursue despite being rebuffed the first time on whether this is possible or not, and that is to try to determine whether we could take over some of the issues with respect to exam processes and such here in DWP. I'm told that there is a charter issue around that. I'm not fully convinced of that as of yet. I want to pursue that further. So we could bring some of this in-house to unburden the city personnel with some of the things that they're backed up on. But that's the reality. Until something like that is done, this is what we're facing.
Is the holdup primarily in the testing process, or is it?
Well, the problem that we had is there were no existing lists because we haven't had the opportunity to hire in such a long time, and so. And this is just for one classification, my lowest level classification, because it's the only level where I'll get additional bodies is to start at the entry level. Because otherwise, if I promote seniors, I'm taking from within. I don't have any additional staff that are added. So this is just for March and April. But yes, it's because there are no lists. And then, for instance, they will not. You know, you can see here that the exam notification won't come out for it was like 9 months after it was requested for them to even just do a notification that people can apply for the position. It's a dismal, dreary situation. And so what I have is, I've got people working overtime. I'm doing 3 jobs right now because one of my managers is out on disability for 3 months, and then a couple of her staff are on vacation, so there just aren't any additional people to identify to do the work.
Is this a common refrain throughout the department on all hiring processes?
Generally across the board, yes. Some of them are not quite as problematic as others. There are some people on lists, so if there are lists that are available, then it can move quickly. But if we have a situation where we have to move forward and get a new exam in order to create a list, this is the time frame that we're dealing with.
Do we know if the other proprietaries are similarly situated?
They are similarly situated. They don't have the same facing the same growth in capital plans and expansion that we have, and therefore they don't have the need for the hires that we have. The numbers are just smaller, significantly smaller, just by virtue of size.
So I know we've talked about this before, but we're facing a problem with a lot of retirees in the department, and the necessity of maintaining our institutional memory, and the only way you do that is you got to bring fresh blood into the body. Doesn't sound like we're having much success at doing that.
We're having some, but not as it's an issue that we're dealing with constantly, and trying to make certain that as people are retiring, we're trying to make certain that we have people who are here now and in the lower level positions now learning that, and then capturing that information, at least electronically, so that we have that for when people are indeed in the future filling those positions.
In the financial services report that was distributed in the board packet, it reads, occupancy has fallen gradually in recent months despite hiring efforts. As retirements have exceeded new hires, the percentage of overall overtime to wages fiscal year to date was 13.3%. So it's very clear that there's an endemic problem.
There is indeed.
I mean, how would you rank this in terms of all your worries that keep you up at night? I mean, where is this?
It's right up there on the top. It's a consistent issue that we're facing across the board.
In following up on your question, Mr. President, maybe we as a board should pass a resolution and deliver it over to the mayor's office, and take some sort of official act to say that this is a problem here.
We could do that, or we could just have an informal discussion with the mayor. I might want to try that first and see if we can get his attention. I'm sure he's aware of it. I'm sure he wants to deal with it. It's just, again, he's got a list of issues as he brings in his administration. So.
Exactly.
But I think we should do something, and if that doesn't work, I agree. We should do something more formal.
Okay. The next chart depicts the workload that we've had. The 2013 chart is just work for 2013 through May of this year. These are the GM awarded contracts that are $150,000 or less. So there's been a reduction in the number of contracts that are GM awarded. But when you go to the board awarded contracts, this chart's fairly indicative of the fact that we're understaffed by 16 people, and you can see that through May of this year we've exceeded the dollar value significantly just for 5 months of the year from all previous years. Now, some of that is due to not necessarily the number of contracts, but the high dollar value contracts that we're doing, which sometimes take, a year to 2 years and a lot of staff resources in order to get them awarded.
I think we could thank Jim for that, largely.
Jim and Aaron. This is just kind of a description of what I've tried to do with purchasing realignment, is redefine our roles and responsibilities, review policies and procedures, and modify our purchasing culture, and reorganize the purchase supply chain office to look as it's depicted on the chart. I had a staff retreat when I first came on board, the first month that I came on board, to identify goals and objectives. We did the reorganization process. I surveyed the staff in terms of where they wanted to go, reassigned them to 90% of them to the groups where they wanted to go. We emptied 37 bins of old paper out of our 11th floor offices, and we co-located the staff so that all the water staff sit together, all the power staff sit together, and the joint staff. Benefits of reorganization: we have better interface with our customers. Our buyers are more familiar because they are in a specific group with the commodities they buy. And we're getting cross-training because before we only had 4 people out of 60 that could do RFPs. And that was part of the reason that it took such a long time to do RFPs, because there were only 4 people doing them for the entire organization. I brought in ESI from Washington, D.C. last year to do training for 60 people. So we're cross-training all of the buyers so that all of them will be able to do RFPs. Some have better skills than others, but they'll all be able to do them. We also, Aram's group and Jim's group have been kind enough to include us in their quarterly meetings that they have, so the managers attend those for water and for power, so they're more familiar with their look-aheads and what their issues are. This is just a listing of the achievements to date. I had RFP training, we realigned purchasing, we developed templates for an RFI and an RFP, we expanded the P-card program, we developed an employee newsletter, implemented the SBE DVBE program, which I was going to get back to you on how that was going, and it's not going as well as I thought in terms of the attainment of goals, and I'm probably going to recommend that we go to mandatory goals like the airport has, because our numbers are just very low. Still, a lot of the big prime contractors are, because they've become good at doing it, do the good faith efforts rather than meeting the goals. So I think we're going to have to move toward mandatory goals. We've established an DVBE advisory council that meets with Mr. Nichols twice a year to get their input about how they think things are going with those programs. We're moved toward internal cycle time goals, where we're trying to, even with the low staff, say that we'll get an RFP out 45 days from the day that we get it from our customers, and that on bids that come in, that it's 90 days from the time that the bid opens to the time that it gets awarded, including the board process. We had the vendor connection event, and we've done 1 external newsletter, the supply line. This is just a listing of we need additional staff. We need a consultant. I've done 1.5 standard operating procedures, but I don't have time to really do it, so we need to bring a consultant on board to help with that. We're going to continue our team building. We need training, and internal audit is beefing up the number of audits they do to help me figure out that the staff is complying with the changes that we're doing.
Is there a way we can either employ temporary employees to help us with the workload, or borrow employees from another department the city is not as busy that works in the procurement area?
Gwen and I have spoken about what our options are, and we've looked at emergency hires. We've looked at borrowing, and we hear from the other city departments that they've got a similar issue. Not quite as acute as ours, but nevertheless, they don't have any extra people, given the circumstances that they're facing for the budget cuts that they've had. So, are there
retiring workers from IOUs that we can bring in on a contract basis?
We've explored that option as well, and still exploring that option, by the way.
Okay.
On that, the issue is, in terms of bringing those people in, there's only higher levels that you can bring them in. There's difficulty of bringing in people in at the lower levels. Civil service issues that deal with that.
But if they're retired, right, and they have a retirement, they may be willing to work.
We have challenges in terms of the means by which we can actually compensate somebody at a lower level inside the organization, it's kind of complex. Let me have to explain it to you offline.
President Sells, if I might add, having worked at 2 other utilities, this inability to bring in temporary employees, I have not seen it before. It really is a major gap that I think exists in this city that should be on that reform agenda. It wouldn't circumvent any civil service rules, but just we have no ability to pick up a phone for emergency circumstances, for pending this long hiring process. It's really a gap that needs to be addressed.
So to do it, do we need waivers from the city council?
It's kind of a long story.
It's a long story. Okay, all right. We'll talk about it offline.
Okay. This is just briefly, I'll go through the implementation timeline. One of the first things that we want to do is eliminate goals on materials-only contracts because it creates a lot of problems for it. There isn't the ability a lot of times with materials to have goals on those contracts. The ERSP electronic checklist is ready, but it's waiting. They'd originally done it with the 19 documents, and I put it off for another month until we move to the 8 documents that are mandatory. We've changed our pre-bid meeting scripts to address emphasizing the need for vendors to look at our responsiveness requirements. We've developed, and we're going to submit them for Mr. Nichols' approval, board resolution templates so that the templates always look the same for the same type of actions. The responsiveness workshops have started. We have not, August is, I missed that date. We're going to be working with legal to revise our protest language to clarify it. I think it's very confusing to the vendors in terms of when they have the ability to protest. We're going to start tracking sustainability products in September. In October, working on an improved board letter template for the new board, which we'll discuss with them. We're revising our specification template, as I mentioned. We will, in October, also establish and track our cycle time metrics, which will have not really aggressive goals for the start, but after we staff up, there'll be better goals. We're going to do internal training classes for contract administrators. There was an external training that was done a number of years back. We paid a lot of money for it, but I don't think it was tailored to the department's real needs in terms of what the contract administrators need to hear. The supplier performance evaluation system will be up in November. The terms and conditions from the consultants with the law firms, that should be finished in November. We've got working on a vendor handbook and a contract expiration dashboard, so we'll know when a contract is expiring and we won't have to rely on manual or somebody going, oops, this is expiring. And hopefully that's very optimistic because I said it'll probably be March or April before I'll see new assistant utility buyers that will start that training. And this is just how we'll be evaluating ourselves with those metrics. And that's it.
Questions?
Well, I just want to congratulate you. This is a very comprehensive, very good presentation, and I would encourage you to come back to new iterations of the board with this document in hand and be able to explain to future boards what exactly you've been able to accomplish and what you would like at that point to accomplish in the future. I think it's a very good process. It's not the most sexy of issues, but it's so critical to how the department functions that it's important that you get in front of the board to make sure the board is focused on these kinds of issues.
Yeah, Ms. Williams, I just want to thank you so much. I mean, you've been trying to get in front of us for, I don't know, 3 or 4 months to share this information. It's so critical and very much appreciated, and it just strikes me that you're boxing with one arm tied behind your back, and thank you for doing that great job.
But still boxing.
Yeah.
But still boxing. And again, I just want to add to what my commissioners have said, this is an extraordinary job. It's terribly important to the department. We can't thank you enough for taking it on. And despite all the obstacles that others put before you, seem to be moving forward. And we are improving daily, and we will continue to improve. So thank you very much for your work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Why don't we, while we're here, are there any questions or comments on the RPS project update?
I have some questions related to the filed reports from the department.
Let me just get this one. On the
right.
RPS, questions on the RPS?
No.
Okay, so we can deal. What about, okay, now let's go to the monthly reports. Commissioner Parker has on all three, or?
Just on the water and power systems.
Okay.
Doing power system first, the powerhouse fire. Could you please tell us about the extent of the damage and timelines related to repair?
For our infrastructure?
Correct.
Our infrastructure suffered some damages on the pump station that feeds the power plant 1 area, and those are under repairs. We have the power restored temporarily, and we have the permanent work is going on, so we picked up that load right after the clearing of the area. So, but we're still we did the penstock inspection, and that was cleared, and we put that in service, and we have the power restored.
There were some real threats, though, to our Powerhouse 1, wasn't there? It came very, very close.
So it's right in our backyard. The fire started on the hillside.
No, thank you. On the water system, Jim, I'm wondering if the Zoo Road has reopened.
The Zoo Drive is not reopened yet. I think they're looking at the end of this month.
End of July?
Yes.
All right. The board letter said end of June, so I was...
Yeah, there was some further delays, so that we did not make that date.
And the status on the Silver Lake Bypass project, it was noted in here that things are moving ahead, but is there a time we can tell our friends at Silver Lake when they can anticipate some relief? Because I hear about it all the time.
We've been meeting with the community fairly regularly to update them on the schedule. I don't have the most current schedule in front of me right now. But we've notified them of the plans for the draining of the reservoir, and when the construction is going to begin, and a lot of the kind of the nitty-gritty details. So there have been a series of community meetings ongoing with that.
I'm pleased to hear that. And the conservation PR effort, how's that going?
It's going very well. As I mentioned to the staff this morning, we're advertising on Time Warner Cable, so since you can't watch any of your favorite CBS programs, at least you can watch our conservation messages. But I know that it's not reflected. These are June numbers in here, so these are still kind of lower than I'm hoping for. So I'm hoping that once we'll see some benefits of that in the next month's report.
It did strike, but I assume that it hadn't quite kicked in, and that's
no,
why we're seeing
not in
slow
June.
level.
Yeah, it really didn't get going until June.
Do you expect to see a direct correlation between the advertising and water conservation, or is it a longer process to...
Most of this is the long game, but part of the reason that we're investing in the advertising is to get some more of an immediate response, and I think part of it is too, we're seeing the economy kind of coming around, and some homes that have been abandoned for a long time are now starting to turn the sprinklers on and whatnot. So we just want to really get the word out. This 3-day-a-week watering is still the law of the land in LA, and you shouldn't water in the middle of the day. And a lot of people kind of forget that, when times aren't as tough as they have been. But this is a fairly dry year, so we need to get the word out.
And last question from me. The Hollywood Reservoir had an opening, and I knew there was somewhat of a big, PR push around that. And my question to you is, don't you think this could be potentially an attraction that we could now advertise that could benefit tourism in the city, that this great asset that's sort of this, sort of a famous landmark in the city that can be advertised, that you can now circumnavigate the reservoir and things like that? Have we talked to LA Inc. and had our PR folks approach them? Because maybe they don't know it's been restored.
I don't know about LA Inc. I would want to have some discussions with the council office and the neighborhood council there. There is a sensitivity issue about influx of people and traffic and parking and those kind of things. It's pretty much street parking around there. There's no real, there's no infrastructure for that. So we would need to do a little outreach and make sure that we don't upset anybody by that. But I know we had our walk around the reservoir, our first reservoir walk, and we had quite a good turnout. And a lot of them were for people that weren't around the area, and they were kind of surprised to see that it had opened. So your point's probably well taken. We do need to get the word out.
All right, thank you. That's all from me.
Other questions on all the monthly and management reports will be deemed filed. Anything else, Barbara, before we go into closed session?
Item 21 we're going to do after?
We're going to do after.
Okay.
Item 21 we'll pick up after.
That's it then.
Okay, all right. You're on, Mr. Brown.
Thank you. The board shall publicly report any action taken in closed session and the vote or abstention of every member present thereon in accordance with Section 54-957.1 of the California Government Code.
Thank you.
Commissioners, Randy Howard of the Power System. I have with me Bill Gloss, and before I start, I just want to recognize Bill Gloss. This is his last board meeting. Bill is retiring next week.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
So he
You're
will
way too young to be retiring.
And far too happy.
Wipe that grin off your face. Will you?
Thank you all very
Thank you
much.
for
Appreciate that.
the wonderful work.
Yeah, it's been an honor to work here for 33 years. So thank you.
He
Congratulations.
will be sorely missed in all of our solar programs and throughout the power system. So we appreciate his effort up to this point on this particular project.
So we'll keep him here as long as we can tonight.
I'm not saying goodbye yet, so we have some room.
So what we're seeking the authority to be able to develop and enter into an MOU that would come back before the Board of Commissioners related to a term sheet that's before you today with Inyo County. The term sheet has been negotiated by both parties. It's pending today before the Board of Supervisors in Inyo County for a number of provisions. It's a non-binding term sheet, terms that have been negotiated. If you'd like, we could go over the project just briefly. Bill could go over that. I think you're comfortable.
Okay.
All right. I'll just jump into some of the provisions of the term sheet. It's a number of items that we, after working together with Inyo County, that we developed together, and it's a one-time payment to the Inyo County for $4.5 million to offset direct county service-related costs that had been identified to us. A one-time economic development loan to the county in the amount of $2 million for the development of infrastructure, campgrounds, local community housing stock, and to promote jobs and business development. One of the issues that they had raised that they would like additional funds to help them with would be to modify a number of campgrounds in the area so they could accommodate electricity, some plumbing, and the ability to take on sewage. Most of the campgrounds in the vicinity of this project where maybe employees might choose to stay during the construction don't have those types of services. They identified a number of other infrastructure improvements that would be beneficial both for the use of our employees while they're up there, but long-term for the economic development of the area. One of the issues that we recognize is just some of the boom-bust issues that come with a project like this, and they had identified some opportunities. They are our electric service territory. We serve electricity to all these communities in this area. We recognize this as we've done in the city of LA. There was opportunities to provide some economic development loans that would improve some of the infrastructure and bring in additional revenue to the department.
So what would the terms of the loan be, and who would be essentially the borrower? Would it be the county of Inyo?
It'd be the county of Inyo. We haven't developed the actual terms and conditions. We would try to model it after similar loan programs we offer through our economic development group today that we offer in the city for infrastructure projects. We currently provide loans for energy efficiency, for solar, for other provisions. We would try to model after those that I think have been well vetted and we have good repayment provisions in those right now.
Okay.
One of the other terms that we have offered up was to increase our feed-in tariff program to a total of 10 megawatts. Currently, we're offering 4 megawatts in Owens Valley under the 150 megawatt program. We propose to offer a total of 10. We also agreed to pave and maintain the Manzanar Road for construction access. The road is currently paved up to the bridge on the Owens River, but the balance to the project site is unpaved today. We would propose to pave that road, and we would propose to maintain that road during the construction activities. Upon completing construction and going into operations, the county would take that responsibility back over. We've also agreed that if we were to decommission later or have some other major construction activity, we would take on the responsibility during that period of time, but otherwise they would have that responsibility. The terms that we attempted to negotiate were mostly one-time upfront during construction, not ongoing types of responsibilities that we would have with the county. An additional term that we determined was a big issue for them, and that was how do they get their own employment workforce up there involved with DWP? How do jobs get created for their youth? And they had been hearing about our utility pre-craft helper trainee positions in our program here. So what we've agreed is during the construction of the project to have up to 10 UPCTs that would be hired from the local community. So their youth and unemployed would have an opportunity to participate in our training program and potentially get hired as long-term, which is also quite beneficial because we have permanent employees up there, and we have the same issues on workforce development needs up there as we do here. So this long-term, we think, would be very productive for the department. And lastly, what we proposed to offer was an energy efficiency MOU with the Inyo County School District to develop measures at the county schools. This would be funded under our current energy efficiency program. We did some research and determined that their schools have not taken advantage of our energy efficiency programs for many, many years. So working with David Chakotay, he will work with us to develop an MOU directly with the school districts, similar to what we did with LAUSD, and have very focused programs that would be offered to the schools. We recognize that our workforce up there could be bringing up their families. Those families will be utilizing those schools. This would be a win-win for our energy efficiency program. And in return for those considerations, the County of Inyo would not require us to do a change in their county plan, as well as utilize their renewable ordinance program. We would be able to be the lead in CEQA and go forward with the project, and they'd be supportive of those efforts. So if you have any additional questions?
Comments? Is there any public comment on this?
No cards were turned in.
Does the ratepayer advocate have a comment on this? Okay. Is there, so all you need is you want approval of the non-binding MOU.
Yes, approval, giving us the authority to proceed with the development of an MOU.
I'd like to add a clarifying point to the commissioners that all these provisions only get triggered with the MOU being approved and signed, and if we move forward with the project.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good. On that,
Is there a motion?
Yes, so moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Matter's approved. Barbara, have we done our work?
Everything's done.
Anything, Commissioner Moss or Commissioner Barford?
No, we're good. Thank
Okay,
you.
we stand adjourned. Thank you.
So, Mark, I had a question for you.
Hopefully that's the end.
Yeah.